Hi, my name is Amy King and this is my presentation on Hitler and Nazism. The rise of Nazism started in 1834. It was a very prolonged process. The French aristocrat in 1856 and author Arthur de Gobineau published his an essay on the equality of human race. This is where he divides the human species into three races: black, white, and yellow. Thinking that it created a natural genetic barrier of sorts. He thought racial mixing would lead to chaos. His work was characterized as philosemite. He wrote positively about the Jews. This was also known as an early manifestation of scientific racism. And a biography that was written for Hitler said that this book could have actually influenced Hitler's mind on anti-Semite. Hitler was then born in 20th of April 1889, and a book was written which it was called The Foundation of the 19th Century, which influenced many prominent Nazis. So for the rise of Hitler, in 1919 he began to raise his power in Germany, September. He joined the political party Deutsche Arbeiterpartei, which is the German Workers' Party. In 1920, the name changed to Nationalsozialistische Deutsche Arbeiterpartei, which is a national social German Workers' Party, commonly known as the Nazi Party. It was anti-Marxist, which Brecht came from a Marxist tradition, so that's what could have actually influenced his work as well. Hitler opposed post-war government, and President Paul von Hindenburg had already appointed Hitler as Chancellor in January 1933. Now I am going to speak about propaganda and how it was used and what it is. So, propaganda is information that is used to promote a political cause or point of view, especially in a biased or misleading way. Hitler would have used this to inform the nation of his view of unconventional people, unconventional communities or Jewish people, anyone who wasn't known to be this pure race. He would have used it. It is information that is primarily to influence the audience and further the agenda, which is also it can also be seen as brainwashing. Giving selected facts to encourage a particular perception, manipulation and emotionally persuading using language. This would have targeted all classes and make everyone think the same way, but the message would have been given differently to each and every class. So a person who is of like upper class would have got a different kind of propaganda message to someone who was in the lower class and middle class. How was it used to grow the hatred of Jews and unconditional communities? Hitler made the population of Germany believe that Jews were demons or monsters. He also made them believe that they were lazy and they took up all the resources that Germany needed. After the First World War, Germany was in some secluded punishment, and money was basically worth nothing, and resources were low. So they were blaming Jews. Hitler was blaming Jews for the nation's problems. Hitler targeted the propaganda to all societies and adjusted it to make each class believe it emotionally. So this is where Brecht would have tried disconnecting people emotionally from the problems that he put on stage, and disconnecting emotionally from the characters, so then they had their own thoughts and processes. On the unconventional communities, he believed that anyone who didn't have four non-Jewish grandparents, they were classed as impure. Anyone who had disabilities or had homosexual views was that as well. Purists, we are going to talk about next. What was considered the purists? Nazi theory believed that modern Northern and Western Europeans were descended from Proto-Indo-European tribes who were thought as superior. The basic definition of Aryan was little to do with hair and eye colour, which was a massive thing if you had blonde hair and blonde eyes. It is actually someone who has 4 non-Jewish grandparents, so making sure that you have very little Jewish blood in you. Diversity in Nazis' eyes were considered a failure. They wanted a strong nation, and in the eyes of a Nazism, nature doesn't care about feelings. Only the strongest survive, so anyone who had disabilities wouldn't survive because it wasn't strong enough. Anyone who had impure thoughts about men, usually it was homosexuals, males, who used to get taken to the concentration camps as well, as they were known to be weaker men. So there is many reasons as to why Hitler decided to have these ideas. Anti-Semitism played a role in Adolf Hitler's thinking and his Nazi ideologies. There had been discrimination in Jews since the Middle Ages. Christians believed that Jewish faith was an aberration that had to be quenched. Jews were forced to convert, or they were not allowed to practice certain professions. In the 19th century, though, religion played a less important role. Ideas of Jews belonged to different people than Germans. Jews that were converted to Christianity were considered different based on their bloodline. In the book Mein Kampf that Hitler wrote, he says that the development was a long and personal struggle of not liking Jews. He came into contact with anti-Semitic at an early age. But his prejudice wasn't crystallized into a clear worldwide view for a very long time, and I feel like if that happened, he would have had a better view. Bertolt Brecht had to live in these conditions, and there was someone that he must have really, really cared about that had gotten killed by Stalin. So, and he saw the same happening to Germany, like the industrialization, the purifying of the country. So that's when he decided, that's a speculation why he decided to flee, because he saw the same route happening. So then he ended up living in exile for a long while. The fact that he had to live through someone he cared about dying, through Stalin and his ways, and then ended up following up with living in Germany and having Hitler taken over and creating this pure race, which was anyone who is strong enough and anyone who isn't Jews. There is a lot of speculation that he had a gas attack, which made him hate Jews. He had got a disease from a Jewish prostitute. So he didn't. Hitler didn't know what, like, that there was good in Jewish people. So he decided to start basically getting the superior out. And Bertolt Brecht saw that, so he's decided to change the idea of change the idea for the society, because a lot of people decided that whatever Nazism was saying, it's true, and the propaganda that was used was true, whereas it was for Brecht to just basically say you need to emotionally detach yourself from the characters, so then you can emotionally detach yourself from all the propaganda that you are seeing. So that was my presentation, and thank you.